I can second. Uh, any discussion on the minutes? All right, I'll call the roll. Let's see, Ingrid,
Approved.
Jim,
Approved.
Susan,
Approve.
I approve as well. We had the public comment. Do we need to read that into the report, or is it in the agenda so it's good to go?
I think we're good to go with it, just as in the agenda, right?
Okay. Yep. Thank you, Ed, for passing that along. It's a good comments. Principals report. Rhonda.
Hey, everybody. We've had a couple of students switch from virtual academy or homeschool, so we're up to 123 in person, or 90% of our school. I included a link to the budget summary that I was talking about at the prior meeting in there. So you, as that gets updated, you can find an updated version. We're getting to the time where we need to be thinking about Katherine Johnson grant. So I asked Nancy for some information. The estimated interest gained is $23,708. The checking balance totals $39,000, and the CD balance is $21,000. So we'll be advertising, putting that out there for people to apply for those for next year. We have some that probably some of the grants for this year that would have probably already been done, but people are kind of waiting for spring and when they can have people come and work with kids outside instead of coming into the building. So there are quite a few that haven't happened yet, but they're coming. And then we also have Nicole Cardano working with our first graders on the fairy tale. They're wicked cute. They had their first day today, and there are a couple of pictures in there from further down. The K2 100th day of school celebration is in red because I was supposed to put a couple pictures in there and I got them kind of late and I didn't put them in. So that's fine. I'll add them in for next time so that you can see some of the cool ways that kids celebrated the 100th day of school. We've been partnering with the Southwest Harbor Library, and the 3rd and 4th graders have read a couple books, and you can go to the town library website and watch those on YouTube. Our kindergartners have been working with Acadia Park Rangers. They're doing some virtual field trips, and they're going on nature walks and just really experiencing and paying attention, being good observers of nature. For Read Across America, we had a virtual whole school assembly where we gave out our Student of the Month awards, and then teachers shared the picture books about diversity that they were reading to their kids. So that was very powerful. In first grade, Shannon all our kids are doing very well academically. And so she just wanted to emphasize that. She's got some kids doing amazing work. And she's, one of the things that we wanted to highlight is that they're using a new math curriculum this year, Eureka Math, and the students are doing well with that. She's getting support with students with IEPs, and then Mr. Wood, the math interventionist, is working in her class, pushing in, and then there are a couple of kids that he's pulling out and working with on specific things. So they're working hard, they're persevering, and they're really doing a nice job. There are a couple of pictures there of them working with Nicole. In third grade, Lucinda Lester, for her Woodsy Owl poster, was selected by the Bar Harbor Garden Club for her poster. And the third graders got their junior ranger badges. They were super proud of that. Some pictures of that. In fourth grade, they've been learned that March is Women's History Month. So the fourth graders are learning about different women in history and their impact. And then they've been working with their reading buddies, and they've been working with Mr. B on their little bits. If you remember, there was the Emory grant for the little bits, and so that's what that grant went to, so that we had enough kits for a class, but it was for, with 2 or 3 kids working together. And now everybody has their own set, which we need it to be for COVID. Everybody has to have their own supplies. One of the things that didn't get put in is that Anne from the Conservation Committee, we had talked with her last fall about planting the trees out front. And yesterday she sent an estimate. It will be $6,000 for the trees, sod, loam peat moss, soil amendments, the tractor, and labor. It includes 2 deciduous trees, preparing the planting area. They would like to adjust the sign over just a little bit because right now it's not centered with the building. New planting bed and the necessary labor and materials. One of the things that's not included in this is irrigation. So that would be about another $1,000. So they were looking at splitting this cost with us 50-50. So that would be $3,500 for the school. We put $1,500 in the budget because we had to put some kind of figure in there and not knowing. So we have $1,500 in the budget that we're discussing tonight. So when we get to that point, if we can talk about bumping that up to $3,500 so that we can pay our 50%, that would be awesome. And then welcome to Larry. Larry is here because the school committee had some questions about should we be purchasing a bus for next year. And Greg is here because one of the discussion items after this is the long range building maintenance plan. So thank you to Larry and Greg for joining us tonight. Sorry that I didn't start with that. A little laser focused right now. So thanks for joining us. Larry, what are you seeing with the buses?
We have a 2009 bus, and that the state recommends that they're replaced every 10 years and have 125,000 miles on them. Well, this bus here has 126,000 miles on it, and it's now 12 years old. And we also have a 2013 bus right now that's got over 100,000 miles on it, and that would be slated to be replaced in 2013. And I see these getting out of rotation right now every 4 to 5 years, and that really bothers me because we're depending on that spare bus quite a bit now because of the COVID, and when running that for a third bus. The state police, they inspect these buses once a year. The garage inspects them twice a year at Caldwell's, and the state police DOT team come down, the bus inspection team, they come down once, either be it in the fall or spring, and they go over the buses with a fine-tooth comb. And they told me last spring that old bus is getting kind of rusty underneath, but still for right now is solid. The motor in it's okay, but it's the frame and everything else that I'm kind of concerned about. And I don't want to have to put a whole bunch of money into that bus, and we would not get it back as far as usage and everything like that. And if we keep putting this off, then that 2013 bus is going to be right on top of it, and we'd have 2 buses we'd have to replace. And I kind of would like for you to reconsider, and maybe I could recommend that we buy one this fall if you want to, think about that.
We know we have the funds for it, but we were just wondering if we could hold out another year. So this was at the last meeting, so that's why Rhonda wanted to get Larry in here because he knows more about the buses than anybody. So, but from what he's saying, it sounds like we can't really wait much longer, if at all.
They are getting kind of rusty underneath, because up here in Maine, we are in like 5.5 to 6 months of salt and that brine they put on the road, which is not good for it. And the bus I'm using right now, when we got it, I recommended that they undercoat it at the factory. And I just want to see how that plans out too, as far as that goes. See if that works well or not. But I would like to see that 2009 bus replaced, because if we put it off another year, then that means that the one Lisa is driving, the 2013 bus, that will have upwards of 120,000 miles on it or so.
Larry, stop beating on our buses. Come on now. Stop driving them down the seawall through the surf.
Yeah. This COVID-19 thing in the fall there, we were making 6 trips apiece, and on the buses, we put a lot of miles on them, and we were driving the wheels right off them for a while. But now that everything is settled down, it isn't too bad. And if we get back to normal, if we can remember what normal was, then we're going to have a lot of field trips and a lot of ball games next year, and we're going to need something.
Larry, you do a great job taking care of the fleet. Thank you. And
thank you very much.
Did you get your first shot, Larry?
Yes, I did.
All
I'm going
right.
to get my second one in March 26th.
Thanks. Susan, do you have a question?
Yeah. Is there resale? Where do buses go to die? Do we?
You don't get much, Susan. We put them out to bid, and generally, here the best part is people love them for storage. They love to make campers out of them. They love to gut them and haul race cars. But on a good day, you get $500 for one of these things. That's generally the case if you can get it on a good day.
Okay.
I think
that's where they go to die typically.
I think the last one we sold, it was the old handicap bus, and it went for like $1,000, and the guy made a camper out of it, and he lived in it all winter.
Wow. All right. Okay.
Yeah, helping out the community.
I think that we should put the bus purchase back into this budget, so I'm not really sure what that means for the bottom number or anything. Somebody other than me is going to have to figure that out, particularly if we have to vote on this tonight.
I don't think it should change much, because we have that amount in the reserve for it, and we're feeding it the 30,000, or maybe we didn't.
Yeah.
The money.
It should just be a transfer of funds, I think.
We, John, do you need me to get Nancy on the horn here?
Maybe.
All right,
I just want to make sure that whatever number we're voting on tonight,
Right. I'll give her a shout.
takes that into account.
Yep. Do we want to move to the long range building stuff while we're waiting on that?
Just that I know Julie has an update, an overview of data. You want
Okay.
that?
You could go ahead and go to the building stuff and then come back to me if you want.
Yeah, let's get Greg so that he can jump off and doesn't have to sit through all of this.
Thank you, Larry.
You're welcome. You done with me?
Thank
I
you,
think so.
Larry.
Okay, thank you for having me, and thank you for your time.
I'll see you in the morning.
Okay, see you in the morning. Have a good one. Dr. Gauss, I think, said that the high school is going to go remote tomorrow only.
That's right.
Okay, then
That's
I'll make
correct,
sure
Larry.
she knows about that.
Okay.
Hey, Nancy.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. So what do we got for the long range building maintenance plan?
That's also linked in the principal's report down near the bottom.
John, Nancy's going to be joining us shortly.
Okay, thank you.
We tried to, well, we included the couple of things that are in the budget. We included the windows for the 21-22 school year. We put the bus purchase, that rekeying the building inside and outside. Part of that is getting done during April vacation with the CRF2 money. So it probably doesn't necessarily, well, I think that's not the right spot for it, is what I'm trying to say. We also have in the 21-22, the hiring the engineer or the architect or whoever it is who would be planning that front entrance. And then in the 22-23 budget, doing the work. Greg,
Rhonda, isn't that $10,000 to do some exploratory work?
Yeah,
to figure out what the issue is? I mean, I didn't think that was just for the engineer.
right, yes.
Okay.
And then also the wing, the tiling in the floors in the wing are starting to crack and come apart. The hallway and the stairwell ceilings need some maintenance. The lights are the old lights, so we'd like to put the LED lights up in the wing. And then if we can, there's quite a lot to do in the wing. Replace some leaking windows and include Bonnie and Maggie's rooms in that, so it wraps around that corner of the building. Greg, you want to maybe speak to the, under notes, we added some things, but we didn't, because they were new, we didn't put them in the body of the plan. So he's been working with some people on the gym roof. Right, you want to speak to that? Yep.
Yes. We last 2 weeks have big windstorms. We've noticed another bunch of shingles that come down in the parking lot. So I went up to count, and I've right around 62 shingles need to be added. They're all basically on the very north end of the gym. Few more are on the west side from a northwest wind, I guess, but there's still like 20 some missing on the east side. And so we're going to have to get that patched. And the shingles themselves are starting to get really thin. So we may have to consider roof replacement a little quicker than what we were hoping. The windows, they are leaking, and there's a little bit of brickwork that will have to be, it's mostly redoing the joints around. Bonnie's windows were the worst. There was a few, I think 2 or 3 windows. So probably a total of 7 or 8 windows that the brickwork in between the windows is getting pretty bad. And there was probably 3 or 4 sills where we needed to rejoin. And probably at the time, if we could replace those windows and do that brickwork in unison, that would probably be a big benefit. Is there anything else on it you want to be, you know, put some more input in this?
The carpet, oh, and maybe about the maintenance shed that we've been talking about. Why do we need a building shed?
Well,
building shed.
Very good. The existing tractor shed is starting to show quite a bit of wear. It's sagging. Room is very limited. You can't do much more in it, and we can store our power tools and the tractor, and that's about it. When we do, we're actually have been taking on quite a bit more of our own building projects. And when we do that, we actually have to work in an area of the school, like the hallway or one of the entries or something like that during bad weather. And we was hoping to get a work area, workbench, something like that to help make us more efficient when we do more and more of our own maintenance projects and building projects. Tool storage is another part of it. Right now, we do keep the few power tools that we have in our office on the shelf, but it would be nice to have an area where they can be stored and used, you know. I think also the building itself, the roof on that is starting to show quite a bit of wear. The ramp going up to it is, at the very least, we're going to have to jack that up, shim it up, and block it a little bit because that's sagging. But we can limp by with that shed a little bit longer. It's just be nice to be able to have a better workspace. And that building will need some attention. Another 2-3 years, especially. I think it can do that without really leaking or anything like that, but we're going to have to do something.
Yeah, right now, they're hauling stuff out to the greenhouse,
Yes.
putting stuff together out there and then hauling it inside. And it's just not efficient use of time or good for them or the tools.
Some of the teachers and students are going to start using the greenhouse as their classroom again. We won't have that available. And but it has helped. But the picnic tables that we're going to be building, we can't build those in the greenhouse because they'll be too big to get back out again once we assemble them. So again, if we had even like a 24 by 24 building with an overhead door in it, it would be huge for us.
Mm-hmm.
We'd like to be able to do more work on the tractor as well. It's okay in the summertime, but getting into November through this time of year, it's pretty hard for us to do our own work.
Never have enough storage, huh, Greg?
Yeah, that would be a plus. Yeah.
You know, there are a couple of other things. Someday it would be nice to have, coming from a school that had cameras inside, that really helped us when we had incidents in the building. Or it would also be really good, we hear from police that if there were something going on in the building, they would have access and they would be able to find where the conflict was a lot quicker rather than searching through the whole building. So it would be safer for people. Also, we've noticed that through COVID or just the last couple of years with practicing our drills that the intercom system doesn't go outside. So if we want to go into lockdown and there are a bunch of kids out on the playground, we have to radio and, they don't just automatically hear the lockdown message. So there is some need, and it's particularly with us going outside more and more and using outdoor classrooms, it would be nice if we had the intercom system had the ability to, I don't know as I would want everybody hearing morning announcements and what we're having for lunch, but we'd want to be able to turn it on and let people know what's going on for some things for safety.
I think all of these things seem to make sense. When you're getting pricing on that maintenance shed, you should check out some of those buildings that they have up at Home Depot. Those are, I purchased one of those recently and not that big. I don't know what the pricing was, but they were very reasonably priced. I think the hallway camera conversation is likely something that should be tackled preliminarily at the AOS level, because we have had conversations in the past about cameras in schools, and we have not proceeded with that. So I think just philosophically that is gonna should have a higher level of conversation. But I mean, this is all great, and it gives us a good idea for planning what we need for the building to keep it maintained, because, you know, I think we want to continue to have that facility be in as good a shape as it is currently, right? We want to maintain that and be responsible about it. So the other thing, I mean, this has the building in it, but we also need to figure out where the parking lot project fits in. That, from my perspective, that I think is something we need to be talking about for next budget cycle, because that parking lot is a mess.
Yeah, I had originally, I had it as part of that front entrance. So the office, horseshoe, landscaping, groundwork. It doesn't specifically say I guess I encompassed all of that when I said horseshoe. But,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I can, you know, Greg and I can figure out how to word that so that it's, you know, it's clearer that it includes the paving, maybe paving around horseshoe or something like that. Just so that when we look back at it, or if it's other people looking at it, they know what it is.
And Rhonda, weren't we also looking at a little bit of a redesign for better traffic flow?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you for putting all that together. That's greatly appreciated. Gives us some focus on the future, near term and far term as well. So that's always good. Did anybody have any other questions for Greg about any of that stuff? No? Good. Thank you, Greg.
I got Nancy. Anything you'd like or the board would like to do with the bus, or any consideration on the bus? I mean, on the budget, she's right there.
Yeah, we were just curious, Nancy, because I think we're going to put the bus back in the budget for this year, but we didn't know if that would change the bottom line that we needed to vote on tonight and how that would work.
Yes, what you have to do is you have to put that on both sides of the budget. So you have to put your purchase price of your vehicle in the transportation part of your budget. Basically under that line where the purchase of school bus / reserve is, instead of the 20,000, you would need to put the purchase price of the bus. And then on the other side of the equation would be under revenues, the amount that you would be transferring from the bus reserve. So a bus is at least $90,000, depending on what you get. I think the pricing has gone up also because of steel prices and everything recently. So you might want to put, you know, if you're thinking of buying the bus,
so we have 83 in reserve. So what should we?
Yeah, you've got almost 83 in reserve. You could, like, if the bus was, say it's 90, if you wanted to put 92 or 93 in there on the expense side, and then if you wanted to put, I mean, if you wanted to leave it at roughly what the difference is as being that 20,000 that you had in the budget, or do you want to lower that a little bit? You can by starting to use, you could use a little bit more of your bus reserve.
I would recommend that we kind of net out continuing to put the 20 in, both towards the purchase price, not knowing how much it's going to be, and also that will start to seed the next round for the next bus, which it sounds like it's coming up in not too many years.
Well, if you would want to just put, well, it would net between the two. So you'd want to put basically probably say 92 on the expense side, and then if you put 72 on the revenue side, that difference is going to be your 20 grand that you had in the budget anyway. So you would need, let's see, 72. If you're keeping your budget the same with all the additional items that you have in there, right now it's a 4,146,474. You would be increasing that by 72,000, so it would be 4,218,474. That would be the amount that you would vote for your budget.
I think we could make a motion that said, that had that number in it and that said that we would be moving those funds around so that we can purchase the bus this year.
Yes, I can apply that on the revenue side, just make the adjustments in there also.
Okay. Anybody have any questions about that? We all pretty much in agreement on that, I think. All right. Thank you, Nancy. Sorry to bother you.
No problem. Call if you need me again.
Okay.
I will.
Right.
Greg, you don't need to hang around unless you want to, but
No, I think I'm good if you're all set with me, and thanks for listening, and I appreciate your time.
well, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for everything you do, Greg. Appreciate it.
Thank you. You're very welcome.
Go home.
Hey, you do. Good night, everyone.
All right. I think we're to Julie now. Is that correct?
I actually am going to recommend that you skip this for right now. You have a lot to vote on and a lot to tie up tonight. I don't have anything that is of such urgent revelation. Your kids are doing well. I'll explain about it, and I promise I'll come back next time.
Okay. Thank you. Sounds good. All right. Then we'll move on to the discussion item, which is the budget.
So, John, I think even though it's not listed as an action item, that, if the board chooses, you can make it an action item and vote if that's the direction you want to go.
Yep. It sounds like the town needs it sooner rather than later for sure. So.
So I just was wondering about that, planting the trees, which would be under the facilities, maintenance, operation, and maintenance of plant, contracted services, grounds. In the proposed budget, there's $3,500. It's $1,500 for the horseshoe for the plantings out there. But it looks like with the estimate that we would need $3,500. Is it okay with you guys to increase that line by 2,000?
I think so. Do we need to vote on that specific, or do we just put it in and then vote on the budget as a whole?
You can vote on the budget as a whole, John.
Okay. We will just need to add 2,000 to Nancy's number.
Yep.
Rhonda, you're going to want to make sure Nancy knows that, because
I know.
Yeah.
I'll email her after the meeting.
All right. That would bring it to 4,220,474. That's with the tree and the bus.
Anybody have any questions or concerns or?
I I think we were pretty good with everything that we had done in there. Personally, I think a 3.6% increase is pretty good.
It's a little lower than last year, actually.
Yeah, I don't know where that stands like with the rest of the towns. I know you can't necessarily compare, but
it's all over the board, John.
Yeah.
And you don't want to know what's happening over in Trenton. It's not pretty.
Yeah. But like you said, I think coming in less than last year certainly is that's an added bonus. So that's something we can toot our horn about.
Oh, just a little bit, like 0.2 or something like that. But
hey, it all counts. It all counts. All right. Does anybody have any questions or comments, or are we ready to vote on it? All right. Anyone want to make a motion?
If you tell me the number again, I'm happy to.
With the tree and the bus, it's $4,220,474.
220. Okay. I move to approve the school year 2021-2022 budget in the amount of $4,220,474.
Second.
And it's time for dinner.
Nope.
Hey, Susan made the motion, Ingrid second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Ingrid?
I approve.
Jim?
Approve.
Violet.
Susan?
Approve.
Violet.
And I approve as well.
Susan, how do you feel? Susan, how do you feel about that addition of the tree? You okay with that?
The tree? Yeah, I'm okay with the tree.
Okay.
Two trees.
Two trees. I know. I've seen the design.
Two trees,
yeah.
Susan. Sorry.
Yeah. I was concerned that it didn't include the irrigation, but that makes sense.
Can I just ask you what the temperature is where you are right now?
It's probably 72, 73. Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Andy is grilling the pizzas, and I was laughing earlier because he almost dropped the lid to the grill overboard.
I did drop it.
Oh, he did drop it and then caught it. And last time he dropped the regulator, that's when I began my free diving career. And so.
Stay safe.
Excellent. All right, you got a budget. Nice job, people.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for all your work on that. That was an action item, but I don't see any other action items. So that brings us to other business. And I know Ingrid, and after the AOS meeting, we need to talk about the calendar.
Yes, so I don't know whether we want to dive into this evening. I do believe, Heather had asked us at the AOS meeting that we plan to have a conversation at our local school boards about it. And I would suggest that we maybe set a meeting between now and the AOS meeting to be able to garner input from staff and community about this. So up to you, John, when you want to, when we want to talk about it amongst ourselves. So.
We're here now. So, we certainly could start the discussion. But I understand what you mean. I don't know if we want to do it amongst ourselves or if we want to have, other people involved as well.
We're also putting together a survey for parents and for staff. So it might be nice to have at least preliminary data from that.
What's the time frame on that?
We're in a very rough draft stage right now, Susan. We hope to have something by Friday for a review of the A-team. And if that passes muster, we're hoping to get that out in the early part of next week to midweek. We're working really hard, but there's a lot of stuff, a lot of ground we need to cover. So we're cranking it out as fast as we can.
Julie?
I just wanted to make sure that, as we put this together and in conversations with Mark and with Rhonda, I want to make sure that the school board really understands what we're asking for so that we know that that we're all talking about the same thing, and that we know that it's not really about whether people want it or don't want it. It's one proposal to meet the needs of what we've been charged to do. So it's kind of like there's two proposals. There's the way we would have done it anyway, and people need to know kind of what that is, and then what this could offer. But I just want to make sure that the board understands what this is, and that it's not extra teacher planning time, and it's not 17 extra days, and it's not, I mean, there's a lot of things that have been said that aren't exactly what it is. So I guess I would just, if people feel like they know what's going on, then it's not any problem. But if people are wondering what it is, this would be a great time to ask some questions.
I'm wondering.
Go for it.
So I'll start, and Rhonda, you can jump in at any time. But, basically, we're living in a time when the board has said that they want standards-based education, and we have said that we need a robust response to intervention, RTI process, to meet the needs of all of our kids, support the kids who need support, stretch the kids who need stretching, and we need time for colleagues to talk together and to be able to plan together. We also need to be planning more engaging and more interdisciplinary preparation for real life kinds of projects. It's very hard to do that when you don't have any time to actually do that kind of planning. And we pull teachers for common studies. We pull teachers within buildings to release them to look at data. We pull them, and that's not as evident. And what we're proposing is actually going to be a lot less disruptive to instruction. And so I just want to make sure that the board understands that and can consider it, so that we're comparing apples to apples and not an idea that this is somehow all this extra time. The way we've been talking about it, kids wouldn't be losing academic time. They may be losing some other time, but that we would be offering a full program. And we know that there's concerns about working with community partners and creating, programs and so forth and so on. And we are committed to doing what we can to work with families and to work with our community partners and to get a sense of what people would need if we were going to go in this direction. I'll stop there, and I don't know, Rhonda, if you want to add anything else.
I just think that this is that next step. We do not have time to really perform the RTI process like we should be. We don't really have time to look at data, set goals for kids, circle back in 4 to 6 weeks to see how they're doing on that goal. And if we had a more robust RTI process, which takes time, then the theory is, and Julie, maybe back me up on this, that we may not see so many special ed referrals.
That's
proven,
but you have to have a robust system in place in order to prevent that. But the other thing I would say is, Ingrid, you've been very kind. You've said how much the work that we've done across the district has gotten people to an even playing field, and we've done that. We've done that by pulling teachers 3 times during the year for full days by role-alike groups, where people had to get subs for those people. And those people had to do sub plans just to be able to be part of that work. So we actually were putting extra work on the teachers in order to do that work. And then there were subs for the kids. And I just want people to understand that is, we can continue to keep doing that, but we don't think that's necessarily optimal for the kids or supportive enough of the teachers professionally. And what happens is teachers can't always make it, or we can't always get the subs or somebody, and so inevitably you're constantly trying to keep the whole thing going together. If we all had the same time available, we could do things vertically within buildings, we could do things horizontally across the district. We could provide some ongoing professional training around behavior and some of the areas that we would want to have that stronger RTI system in. So I don't know. I mean, people can disagree that this is the best way to go about it. I just want people to know there's a lot of districts that have made this decision because it made a lot of sense, and that there's a lot of things under the hood that maybe we should never have mentioned, and we should just keep on going with that mean that we're somewhat always constrained. Lots of things are optional because there isn't time. It's all after school. There's impact to not having this time that's quite considerable. And I truly believe that we've proven this year particularly that you could have less time and you can still support lots of kids' growth because you've got that time to plan. And I have heard from, and so have the principals, you know, we've had time to plan for like special events or outside events, or to be able to do some differentiation so the instruction could be much more targeted.
I don't think that it's happenstance that we're starting to have remote virtual field trips and, you know, and community partners coming into the school virtually, because teachers have time to actually prepare for that. And it makes the learning experience much more rich for our kids, rather than, you know, it gets a little old for all of us, the same thing every day, you know. And the teachers do an amazing job, and our kids are doing very well academically, but it's not sustainable. I think that having that time honors the professionals that they are.
So I've heard directly from one teacher, and I don't know how many others feel this way, who is not in favor of the early release time because they feel that they don't have enough instruction time right now. And so, you know, I think when we had our board chair meeting back in February, that was one of the questions that we as board chairs had, right? Like, has this been vetted with teachers, and where do the teachers in the buildings come down on this topic? And I don't have a sense of that yet, which is, I guess, you know, why we're surveying the teachers.
Mm-hmm. We've also, I'm sorry.
No, I lost my train of thought, so it'll come back maybe.
We've also asked each of the principals to talk with all of their teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Because that hadn't happened necessarily in the building.
Right, correct, yes. I mean, and quite frankly, I think that it should be everybody in the building as part of this conversation, because I know Mark spoke with the union reps who did not share it with everyone in the building or even all of the teachers. So I think we have to figure out what our conduit is when we're having these kind of discussions with everybody in the building, because they impact everybody in the building.
I think it's also really important to, and I've been crystal clear, this is not about planning time for individuals. This is about collaboration. It's about common studies. It's about all the things that Rhonda and Julie have talked about, but it's not about giving additional individual prep time. I want to be really clear about that. If that's how it's being perceived by some, I do not support that. And now the issue of equity of prep time is a different issue. But
you need to be clear.
I do support what Rhonda and Julie are saying, but I want to be clear with staff, because from the feedback I've been getting, some staff are interpreting it differently, and I think it's really important to be clear.
And some administrators, not Rhonda, have said that. So they need to get on point with their message, because I can't get behind planning time. I think it would be, I think it would be useful. I mean, I personally could get behind this, but not for next year because I just think that we are not going to get community buy-in for next fall because parents are freaked out about COVID and the impact of their kids' education. I think things need to calm down from that and whatever else. That's kind of a separate conversation, I guess. But Mike Kurz at the beginning of the AOS meeting, I thought was very eloquent in what he thinks is needed in the next presentation that is made on this topic, which is citing actual studies that have shown that high schoolers should be going to school later, you know, answering all those questions he had about which high performing districts have this early release time. I would like to see, okay, in a given month, what does this time actually look like in practice? Because I sit here and I think about some of the teachers in our buildings and some of the positions that they have, and I wonder what they're going to do with 10 hours of additional time. So I think it would be helpful to me and probably everybody else to have a much clearer, I mean, we can say that it's collaboration time but I mean, like, I could much easier get behind one early release time a month, one early release day a month than 4, because 10 hours of time just seems like a lot to me. And I think that's where the 17 days a year, you know, when they're taking that time, I think that's why they're throwing those numbers around, right? Because the kids are not in the building for a half a day, 4 days a month times 9 months, whatever, you know, I mean, I think that's how they're coming up with those numbers.
Yeah, Rhonda.
Somebody also the other night, and I can't remember who it was, made the comment that quantity doesn't relate to quantity. Quantity is different from quality, right? And I would argue that giving teachers that time to plan collaboratively, to having more engaging lessons, it would help us bounce back from COVID even faster than not having that time. So I see it as it is necessary next year because of that. I also know that, well, we're probably going to be still under some COVID restrictions in the fall, right? We're still going to have masks. We're probably, you know, it's not going to be normal. So teachers and staff may still need some of that time for the same that they do now. Talking to staff, it's even the couple of people that I've spoken with who aren't all in, it's not that they don't want it, it's that they don't think that we need to be releasing at 11:30. They're looking at like a 1 o'clock release instead, which is what we've been talking about. So there's also some misconception out there too about it being that it would continue to be 11:30.
And that's because nothing has been put out. I mean, right? That's part of the problem. So everybody is interpreting this in their own way based on what's been going on now, and because nothing has been put out. And so, I'm not going to harp on, Marie's comments about communication, but I mean, I said to Mark today, I think we need a PR person.
Please, that would be great.
Because I mean, there's so much misinformation out there, and now we've got a YouTube video on our Chris Popper post that has gone out prior to parents even having a clue as to what's going on. So it's, I don't have kids in the mix, so I mean, but I have real concerns about what some of this means for our working families, particularly starting school on Labor Day, because if we get out in June when we're slated to get out, we have just added 2 more weeks of summer to families' pocketbooks that they have to pay for summer camp or daycare or something for their kids. And I said it on Monday. I have not heard a reason as to why we are proposing to start after Labor Day.
The only reason, John, may I? Yeah. Rhonda, jump in if I don't say this correctly, or Julie, but the only rationale that we've come up with as an admin team that we've bounced is just, and Ingrid, don't get mad at me, is the potential impact that we may see with variants of COVID. It was a precautionary move recommended, but that's not, I don't know that anybody is overtly passionate about that. I think that the feedback I've heard is that, it would be received well by staff, but you've clarified the impact on families and students. Rhonda, is there anything I'm missing on that? Because there's so much information flowing around. I don't want to misspeak.
Not that I remember. We just talked about, we had to go remote, or we felt like we needed to go remote there. So this might mitigate having to be remote and having people be able to plan for it now rather than it coming as a surprise the week before school starts.
That was the major rationale, Ingrid, in a nutshell.
So, but I think in order to, I think we also have to couch that in, there were other reasons that were much more front and center as to why we pushed back the start time. And that had far more to do with the teachers than it did.
Start date.
Last fall.
You mean start date, right?
Yes, the start date last fall was much more around the teachers' discomfort with going back to school than it did with actual circumstances at ground level. There was no community spread. I mean, that's so I personally don't think we should be comparing it to this past fall, because I think they're two totally different situations.
Are you hearing in advance of any, are you hearing a lot of anxiety from parents about, wait a minute, that people that may know that we, I said it publicly, is this a concern for families or parents?
I don't think enough people even realize what's going on. I think once they realize that we're not, I think the masses don't realize that we're not making up snow days, right? So when they find out that their kids are getting out on June 11th, and now they've got, and if it starts on September, what is that date?
7th.
September 7th?
Yeah.
When they figure out that they've got 2 more weeks in their summer, that they're going to have to figure out how they're navigating that.
Well,
that's an expense. That can be a significant expense for families.
This one, I would say, is a much easier issue to resolve than drilling down into release time. Honestly, I think I can go back to the A team. We can talk about that and the impact. And again, I'm going to say this carefully, but the indicators are trending that, we're looking positive in terms of vaccinations and our trajectory. So all those things being said, if that's true, which at the present time it is, that would negate the advocacy for a September 7th date, and that could be moved back. I will bring that back when we discuss to the A team. That might not have to be as contentious as some may find it, and maybe we can devote time and energy to other areas that are of more concern.
I think, June 10th release date, that's the earliest date since I've been on the school board that the kids have gotten out of school. Usually we're pushing mid to late June. So I think this year is certainly an anomaly. Yeah. It seems to me anyway. It has to be. The kids are in school a certain number of days, then there's summer. So it's just the fact that we're not making up the snow days this year that is pushing things to 12 weeks instead of 10 weeks.
Right,
And to
but I
that
would
point,
say, why are we not making up the snow days? Why
Well,
are we not, just a minute, why are we not making up those couple of days in January that we didn't have instruction when we went to remote learning? I mean, that's almost a week right there. I don't know why we're not choosing to make up that time. But I mean, and I would love for somebody to explain to me why we're not making that time up.
well, I'm your superintendent. I can explain why. But
Thank you.
You might not like the answer. But
I probably won't.
okay, but I know you like me, so that's okay. You're not going to like this. We're not required to.
But when has that ever been the way we operate in this school district?
Ingrid, hold on. Ingrid, we're in the middle of a pandemic. We're not required to. The state's waived it. I'm not aware of any. No, okay. Hold on. Don't. I'm not aware of anybody that's moving in that direction. But I'll do this tomorrow. When I meet with the Hancock County Superintendent and the Commissioner, I'm going to bring this issue up and say, hey, what are you hearing from other? I'll bring that back. I get it. Look, you're being really clear about the fact that time with kids and instructional time is important. There's no question. Okay. So, and frankly, as a superintendent, I'm going to be hard pressed to say, well, Ingrid, we don't have to. That's not the right. I get that. Okay. So I'm just being brutally honest with you, but I'm not disagreeing. Look, all things being equal, yes, but one of the factors I'm hearing, and I'm not asking you to agree or disagree, is the incredible pressure and stress on kids and families. I'm trying to weigh all of that in what we do or don't do. And it's not a foregone conclusion. I mean, if the board comes back and says, you will, Mr. Superintendent, then we will. But I don't think anything is totally off the table here.
Well, so I think if you want feedback from the school board on this particular topic, it needs to be a topic of conversation, and it hasn't been yet.
Yes.
And I would say that most parents and probably most kids want to be in school. And I don't know how adding a week on makes it more stressful for them. So I hear what you're saying. I mean, but I guess for me, I don't think we have ever really worried about what everybody else in Hancock County is doing. We have always done what we think is best for our kids. And I have had multiple parents comment about the fact that why are we not making up the time that we've lost? So I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
Well, I think, in order for me to really give up, I mean, we're having a very candid conversation here, which I appreciate, and you're being very kind, but at a larger, no, you are, but at a larger meeting, I'll tell you what, I'm going to need more definitive answers than, hey, we don't have to. That's not going to fly. And I'll come back to the group. We'll have something much more concrete and eloquent. Rhonda.
Snow days aside, the 2 days that we were getting ready for remote learning in January, the teachers worked those 2 days. And so contractually, we're paying them for a certain number of days.
I totally get that. I totally understand that, but they were not student days. And
Right.
So we have not given our kids 175 student days. That's what I'm basing it on. And I mean, obviously we can all agree to disagree and we still walk away and like each other. This isn't about that at all. I mean, conversation for a further time, 175 is the minimum student days.
Right.
When have we ever done anything minimally in this district, right? Why don't we have 180 days if that's better for our kids? So I know that there's a cost to that and that we pay teachers and everything else, but I think there's value in that.
The other thing I wanted to say too about make up or not making up days. We've heard, the one thing I hope we can agree on, we've heard for a long time, people would like, I mean, we have a fixed start date. People would like to know the fixed end date for planning. And so the hope is, the conversation aside about what we do with this year's days, in the future, being able to plan forward for camps, for travel, all of that. I like the idea of at least trying out the fact that we plan those contingency days, and then if we exceed them through a plan agreed upon with the teachers and approved by the board, that we make those up and not have to extend the year. So I don't know how you feel about that concept. I know you and I talked about the number of those days too, Ingrid, and what that might look like in the calendar, but that was the rationale for, again, trying to plan for a fixed end date.
What options other than early release every week have been considered? I'm really concerned about what kids have missed this year. And I am not excited about the idea of kids going to school only 4.5 days a week next year. It wasn't all that long ago we were hearing teachers say we need more time. And I think teachers do need more time. I realize that things have changed a great deal, and with more work on RTI and so forth, that needs to be planned for. But the board actually offered more time and were willing to pay for it, and we're told, no, we don't need it. So I think we can look at some alternatives other than taking face time, seat time away from students.
Susan?
Yeah, I was just going to reference, I can't remember how many years ago now, but we had shifted the professional development days from maybe clusters of 2 or separate to a grouping together. And I remember you saying, Julie, that it was split. The teachers, some really jammed on that experience of having 2 or 3 days in a row, and some really liked it separated. So to make this wholesale change, which not only changes, the teachers' professional developments, but obviously trickling down to every school community member involved, seems large if we're still guessing that they might succeed from that process. I think the more I hear about it and the more I read about it, things are clear to me. Actual data on your bulleted sheet about, what 4.5 days versus 5 does. And I know it's not that easily quantifiable in the sense of what that planning does, but also lost train of thought. Marie's point from the other night keeps sticking out. Are we asking too much? I feel like since we've transitioned to standard space, it feels a bit like the needs are snowballing and we're not keeping up. And I would say, as a parent who is not privy to all of this information, and who, for instance, doesn't know that teachers are pulled and subs are added, and they think their kid is plodding along, and they're still moving forward, because we do have dedicated teachers that are making detailed sub plans and are not throwing a movie in the VHS. So from that standpoint, I completely understand their concern of this disruption. So to me, it seems like a big risk not knowing what the result will be. And maybe my feeling is like Ingrid's, and that maybe just this year doesn't feel like the right year. I hear you, Rhonda. I hear that, this year, maybe now more than ever, but for the sake of the community, which includes the health and well-being of our kids, it doesn't seem like a prudent time from my standpoint. That said, I really want to hear what the teachers all have to say about it, and not just Pematic, because, you know, this is one of those decisions I think we need to make on the AOS level. I mean, and we have to, right? I mean, for the sake of group professional development. So, yeah. And then as far as my thoughts on the start date, this year is an anomaly, especially, you know, if we end so early in June, but starting after Labor Day for me would be so much better, because we always had that weird, arbitrary, not Monday start date the week before Labor Day. And then we had the Friday off. And I remember years saying, why do we have this Friday off? Because the teachers like it. You know, they want a 4-day weekend after their summer. And that just made me crazy. And so, you know, to have just a clean start date where you start school and you're in school, that would, you know, I support that. I do understand, you know, this year particularly, it would be very impactful, but starting later would put them in later with those teaching days. So theoretically, 2022 would be a later finish in June. Those are my 2 cents for now, but I'm interested in the survey results.
Yeah, Mark.
So, you know, just thank you, Susan. Just back to Jim's piece. You know what, Jim, there's, have we looked at all things? I don't think we've fully vetted or explored all opportunities, but I would say this, it is unquestionable in my mind that there is a better way. I'm not saying that this is the only way, but the way that we do it now, it really is a misnomer for parents, board members, for anybody to think that we're actually serving our kids the best way we can, the way we're doing it now. I'm not saying that that's a reason that we should absolutely do a release. I'm just saying that Julie has done a magnificent job in trying to work with a construct with all these different schools and all these schedules. So the use of subs and pulling people, I just don't think is the best way to do it. And we can do it a better way. I also think that, to Susan's point, again, getting at least a sense of where parents and staff are at, we would be crazy. I would be foolish to be able to try to bull something through because we thought this was the right thing to do with teaching and learning. If we don't have the support of our community and we don't have the support of our boards, well, we don't have the support of our boards, we're not going anywhere. But that would be really foolish. So I think these conversations at the local level are very important. We were counting up the hours. What was it, Rhonda? How many hours did we just approximate we've been spending on this, just discussing as a team? Was it what, 12, 18?
I think by now it's
yeah. But and
in formal meetings like this, like 9 or 10, and then there have been tons of informal meetings.
And the list of questions that came up in public comment last night, well, I'm up to 3 pages now. And Julie, I think it's 3 plus. So yeah, we've got some work to do and we've got some information to put out. And to the point, Ingrid, about, you know, putting out interviews and information, we work really hard to try to make sure that we maintain continuity of messaging. So I'll circle back on that. That's it. And I know that people want to see something. I was very, very reticent to put something out prior to the AOS meeting and prior to surveys, because I didn't want people to jump to conclusions. But now, being able to show a calendar with potential release days, and a calendar without them, with context, I believe we can, not that we can, we should do and provide that when we put that information out for people to comment on. So we're working hard to do it. Time hasn't been our friend. Timing hasn't been our friend, but I think with every day that goes on in these conversations, I'm digesting more and more and more. So this has been helpful for me. And if you guys have other thoughts or questions, please let us know. And I'm certainly open. If John, if you want to meet again, or you want to do a workshop, or whatever you guys need, we'll make it happen.
Okay. Sounds good. I know for me personally, I'm torn. You know, when the administrators and everybody came to us earlier this year and said we needed that extra day, Thursday early release, you know, we jumped on it. We said yes. You know, we've always listened to the teachers, the principals, and the administrators, and you know what they've told us that they've needed. We've said yes. And I mean, from my time on the board, I think this is probably the biggest pushback I've seen on anything for quite some time. And it's because it's a big change. To Rhonda's point, you know, I do see the benefit of doing it next year. I think the kids are going to come in rough, and I think the teachers are probably going to need more time to assess where the students are because they maybe fell behind a little bit this past year, or just, you know, find out where everybody is after remote learning. Not everybody learns the same. And then as far as the community goes, you know, everybody was thrown up in the air this year with scheduling, but everybody figured it out. You know, we figured out that my high schooler is not going to be going to school on Wednesdays, you know, and the early release on Thursdays. So while, you know, having normalcy is good, you know, I think there is a benefit too to doing it next year because we're already used to things changing so rapidly. But, you know, those are the pros. The cons I do see, you know, the optics, it's a hard one to swallow, you know, and especially with what we're going to hear from teachers and parents in the survey. You know, it'll be very interesting to see those questions because, you know, if you just ask me as a parent, you know, do you want your kid out of school half a day a week? Of course, I'm going to say no. But, you know, it's going to have to be outlined, you know, very well to understand that, you know, this is actually going to be a benefit. So that's kind of where I am.
I hope the board knows this, but whatever we end up doing with our calendar for next year, we'll do the best we are able to do by our kids, and it'll be fine. I mean, I just want to say we've been doing okay. So I just think it's really, really good for us all to consider that there might be other ways to do it.
We're going to figure this out. We always do. We've got smart people that, and you know, you're right, John. I'm glad you said that. I've been here 5 years, and this is the biggest, I don't want to say pushback, but or controversial, but there's a lot of energy around this, and there typically isn't because we have so much support. We're so aligned in this, and it's in the middle of a pandemic, and it's a change. But I was really, really, really encouraged by the conversation with the board the other night, and these conversations have been going well at the local level. So we're going to do right by our kids. We're going to do right by our staff, and we're not going to let this issue divide us.
No. Yeah, I think conversations are good. It's important to keep talking. That's for sure.
John, we should probably try to figure out, because if we don't discuss the results of the polls relative to Pematic prior to the AOS meeting, then we will not have that information, right? Because we don't meet again until after the AOS meeting. So we should probably figure out, and I mean, it doesn't have to be right now. I mean, maybe it's Mark and Rhonda figure out, and Julie figure out what their schedule is that would allow for us to have a meeting and then send a doodle poll out. But I think we need to schedule, you know, a meeting that's just focused on the results of the surveys.
And we might have to move the AOS meeting, Ingrid, you know, I mean, those are all options too. But yeah, I don't want any board to be rushed or to not be able to have those conversations follow up after they have results.
Yeah, we should definitely have a meeting, and I think we'll definitely plan that. And I think we'll have a little clarity too once, you know, they figure out exactly when the poll's going to go out and, you know, what kind of responses we're getting to. So like you said, I don't think we can set anything right now, but just knowing that we need to meet after that all comes in before the AOS meeting for sure. Anybody else have anything else on this now? No.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you all for everything that you're doing in the meetings and everything. It's good to keep talking about it.
Just to give you guys a heads up again, it hasn't gone out, but the high school will be remote tomorrow because of 2 COVID cases. We're doing the contact tracing, and we don't have any intel or evidence to suggest that it extends to any other school. So we'll work to get that information out to you, and we're hopeful that that'll be just limited to 1 day and 1 day only.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Do we have any other business?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't believe so. But you guys will be the first to know.
All right. Future agenda items. We can cross the budget off our list. We've taken care of that. Obviously, we'll have the calendar discussion in the next few weeks. There'll be a special meeting for that, it sounds like.
Where are we at, John, with board seats and papers? And do we need?
My papers are in. I assume Ingrid got Susan's papers in.
Yes, I did.
Lucky lady.
Thank you, Ingrid. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you 2 aren't going anywhere. If Jim and I didn't get released, you're not getting released.
That's right.
And I don't think Marilyn said, I didn't notice that there were any others, but I don't know if anybody knows anything. Rhonda, did you?
Just usually in April, we do the election or whatever of the probationary teachers. So
Yeah, Selena will have that
Oh,
list.
good
and-
question. Actually, can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
How are we dealing with that? I mean, are we doing evaluations on probationary teachers, or did they just win the lottery to
No.
like be here during this
No,
time frame?
No.
I mean, and I don't mean that in a bad way.
No,
Do you know what I'm
we're
saying?
doing evaluations of probationary staff and following the protocol and the process.
Thank you so much. I figured that was the answer, but
But that's not the case with others that are non-probationary.
Yeah.
And this year is an anomaly.
makes sense.
Yes.
All right. Date and time of the next meeting. Well, our
Oh.
next regular board meeting is on the 14th, but we'll probably have another meeting specifically about the calendar before that at a time to be determined.
Right.
And are we thinking about being in person?
Yes.
April?
So, but and John, I just want to say this, John Eisenhower is not here, but others, I want to do that. We're going to have to talk about what the expectation is going to be if we do in person for others and visitors. I just, the tech supports for these meetings across the ALS are really putting a lot of pressure on Josh. So just want to be able to be able to talk about that. But yes, we would intend to have in-person meetings so long as conditions allow us to do so.
Sounds good. All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, maybe Susan, maybe we'll see your smiling face in
Enjoy your
person at our
pizza,
next meeting.
While I'm up here,
Back.
freezing with frozen fish nuggets.
No, we're back on the 20th, but
Of
there's
March?
we're stuck right now for weather. It's blowing hard out of the northeast, the direction we're trying to head in north, and so it's going to be a race for us to get to the yard, haul, get buttoned up, and fly out. So
You're not even rocking now. How was that?
last night or Monday, I was trying to pull
I could tell on Monday.
and Dan Stillman sent me a screenshot of me and said, "Wait a minute, I see a chain plate. You're on a boat." Yeah, so hopefully I'll be there for the special meeting and the next regular meeting, definitely. So, and I'm super excited about it being home.
All right. Thank you.